In this video, I'm gonna show you how to write up a flow switch as part of your inspection. Just for reference, this is a system sensor WFD 60N flow switch. Basically, when you come across an issue with the flow switch, you're going to need to identify what exactly is the issue. Is it something internal in the pipe? Is it something mechanical with the switch? Is it something electrical with the wiring? And I've removed off this module cover to expose the module, but it could also be with the module. So we're going to go through a three-step test. So we're going to test it functionally, which every device gets tested that way. You do a functional test. And we're going to test it mechanically and electrically. So I have my ITV right here for flowing, but we're going to kind of go through the step process. So this switch does pass, just for reference, but I'm going to go through the step process of how I would troubleshoot it to correctly identify what the deficiency is for my write-up. So if we have, or let me show the switch first. So we have our wiring coming in the top. We have our plunger mechanism in the back here. So you see this little white part. So that's what's going to drop down when it activates. We have our lever here, and the lever is attached to a flapper inside the pipe. So this is our riser. So as the riser is pushing up through the system, this flapper is going to push down. So it's going to push up. I'm sorry, this lever is going to push down. So as the flapper gets pushed up, this lever gets pushed down. And then on the bottom, we have our timer, which we can adjust to increase or decrease the time of activation for the flow switch. So let's say hypothetically, I flowed my water here. I'm not going to flow it all the way, but you see the switch come down there, right? So I'm just going to close that. So you see the lever mechanism moving up there. So let's say hypothetically on our test, we flowed that open, and for an ITV, you're going to turn 90 degrees. So this orange handle is going to be facing to the right here, and then a main drain would be the orange handle facing upwards. But let's say you open it up, and this switch doesn't move, right? You need to identify whether the issue is internal in the pipe or if the lever is stuck. So as an example, you could have in the pipe what's called MIC, M-I-C. It's just debris and stuff building up inside the pipe. And when the switch goes to move, when pressure moves, it could get stuck on something inside of the pipe. So there could be corrosion or crud or crap or whatever the hell is in the pipe, and it's causing the flapper not to move. So that would be one instance of it not moving. Another instance would be if you look at your PSI gauge. So we're about like above 50 here. I've been to some buildings where I've seen it as low as like 10, and you need a certain level of PSI to be able to move that flapper. So if the pressure's too low, that could be another reason why that flapper is not moving. And then the third reason could be this lever here is stuck. If it's just stiff or if it's stuck. And that could be irrelevant to what's in the pipe. That could be irrelevant to the PSI on the gauge. So if your deficiency write-up, if you're testing the switch and you don't verify, what's causing the problem, it could be something unrelated to the switch. So as an example, let's say the switch didn't move and I flowed the water. You need to verify, is it the pipe? Is it the pressure? Or is it the lever? Right, so that would be the first instance of your functional test. So is it lever, pipe, or pressure? The second instance would be mechanically. So let's say we verified that it's not any MIC or corrosion in the pipe, it's not that the pressure's too low, and it's not that the lever's stiff, right? So we test it and it activates, but it still doesn't report to the panel. So next we would just trigger it mechanically. So mechanically means you're just going to bypass the functional test. So you're not going to flow it. You're just going to either pull the lever down to get it to activate, or if some switches you could pull down on the plunger to instantly activate it. So what we'll do for this switch is we could just turn our timer to 0. Oh, wrong way. Turn our timer to 0. And what we'll do is we'll pull the lever down and we'll instantly activate it just like that. So it instantly went off. And then we have our alarm here. And I'm just gonna do a reset on that. But let's say for sake of argument, that didn't work. So we verified that there's nothing in the pipe blocking the flapper. We verified that there's enough pressure to activate the switch. We verified that the switch itself isn't stuck. And then we manually triggered it, so we did an instant activation by just triggering it. Just triggered it a second time. There we go, that's trouble. So now we would move to the electrical part of it. So we've gone through all these steps so far to try to verify what specifically is the problem. So if you couldn't verify any of this and you still don't get an activation, the next step would be to test it electrically. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna short the contacts or short at the terminals on the switch, which bypasses the switch completely. So you could do that with a few different things. I'm just gonna use a pair of pliers. I'm just gonna go metal to metal. So let's see if I can do this one-handed, because I got camera in one hand and my pliers in the other. So I'm gonna put there. There we go. So we got the alarm. Okay. So I'm gonna do another reset just to clear it. Again, and we're just going through the different functional, mechanical, and electrical tests. So we got that trigger. But let's say, for sake of argument, that also didn't work. So again, pipe is good, pressure's good, lever's good, flapper's good, mechanically is good, everything's good. We shorted the wires, everything's good, but we're still not getting our signal, right? Something's not activating at the panel for some reason. Right, so the last step I would go through before we set it up for troubleshooting would be to short the module. And usually with the flow switches, because they're conventional style, so they're not addressable. You can't put an address on this. We have a external module, and you could always just trace the conduit, over to where the module is. And on this type of module, it's a SIGA CT2. So you have on it the numbers 1 through 4 and 5 through 8. So the 1 through 4 is going to be your data from the panel, and the 5 through 8 is going to be on your device side. So there's different, also different gauge wires in terms of size. So on the left here, the 5 and 7 is what's connected to the wires here for the flow switch. So just like how I shorted the two contacts here to test it electrically, I'm gonna short the terminals 5 and 7 to test it. And this is, like I said, I'm gonna bypass the switch completely, as well as the wiring coming to the module, and we're just gonna test it from the module to the panel now. So I'm just gonna stick my pliers in there. Okay, so now I shorted it at the module. I got my signal there. So I'm gonna reset it. So again, this is all just like an example. This isn't an actual failed switch, but if I had a failed switch, I would go through this process, a functional test, mechanical test, and electrical test, to see what specifically is wrong with the switch. And the reason why is if I just flow this switch, I'm gonna have trouble coming in a second. If I just flow this switch and it doesn't work and I write up as a switch, I don't definitively know that the switch is a problem. It could be something's in the pipe, it could be the pressure, it could be the wiring, it could be the module, it could be any one of those things. So if we set up a service appointment and they come out to swap the switch, because that's what I wrote up, and they put in a new switch and it still doesn't work, then they have to do additional troubleshooting and may even have to charge the client for more time or a module or something else. So as part of my inspection, I need to make sure I go through this process to correctly identify what is the deficiency. So any number of these things can be the deficiency, and this is why we go through those extra steps. So for the functional test, I want to make sure when I flow it that the lever here moves freely, so I know nothing's in the pipe, right? And I'll flow water and it'll move. I want to make sure this lever isn't stiff. So sometimes you'll push on the lever and they're just really stiff. That could be a switch replacement if the switch isn't moving properly, or if the lever isn't moving properly. Or if it's the PSI being too low, that'd be another issue. So if it's anything internal with the pipe or the pressure on the gauge, then I would recommend troubleshooting with your sprinkler company, because they're gonna have to verify what's going on. If it's a lever, with the little lever here, and it's super stiff and it's not moving, you can tell there's nothing in the pipe because it moves freely as I move it up and down. But if it's just really stiff and it's not enough to activate, then you might want to recommend changing out the switch. So that would cover the functional part. The mechanical part, let's say I immediately activate it, like I set this to 0, like this, but just for sake of argument, we're not going to do it. If I set it to 0 and then I pull this down and it doesn't immediately activate, or I can't pull the plunger down and activate it, then likely something's wrong with the switch, because I'm testing it mechanically and it's not working. So I would write up the switch. And with Waterflow switches, you always want to make sure you get the part number as well as the size, because the flapper has to be a certain size inside of the pipe. And then if I still haven't found what the deficiency is yet, if I short the contacts and I don't get a signal, like I said, I'll go to the module next and I'll short the module. And if I still don't get a signal, even after all of that, then I know that we need to set it up for troubleshooting, because from the module to the panel will likely be the issue. Now, it could be the module itself, or it could be the wiring going back to the panel as the issue. So it's not that the switch is failing, it's that it's either the module or the wiring to the panel from the module is failing. So again, if I write the switch up and the issue is actually the module, the service tech isn't going to come out with the right equipment or have the right amount of time to troubleshoot it. So I always go through kind of this step process. So I do my functional test, because everything's a functional test with an inspection. You're always testing the device functionally first. If you can't get it to activate, then you investigate. Is it something internal? Is it the pressure? Is it the stiff switch? Something like that. If it's not, then I go to the mechanical test. I just immediately trigger this. I just want to just immediately trigger the device. I don't want to flow it. I don't want to time it. I just want to immediately trigger it to see if that sends a signal. If that doesn't work and I don't get a signal at the panel, then I go to the next part, which is I'm going to test it electrically. So I'm going to just short the contacts. So I'm just going to put my pliers on here and I'm going to short the contacts directly. If that doesn't work, then I go to the module next and I just short it at the module. And if that doesn't work, then I write it up for troubleshooting. Because at that point I have to still finish the rest of my inspection and test all my devices, so I don't have all the time to troubleshoot this. But I just kind of want to make this video to kind of demonstrate how to properly write up a deficiency. So like I said, when your service team comes out and troubleshoots it, they have a better idea of what they need to bring out, whether it's a part, or if they need to bring out a module or wiring, or really if they just need to bill the client the appropriate amount of time to try to troubleshoot, because we don't know definitively what the problem is yet, because we've tested everything all the way to the module, but we still don't have a signal at the fire panel. So I kind of just want to go through that process to show everyone kind of what I would do. So if you come across the flow switch as an example, or really any other device, just think, if you test it functionally, it doesn't work, then test it mechanically and electrically. So you want to, mechanically means just directly trigger the device, just bypassing the flow test. And then if that doesn't work, test it electrically. So short the contacts, and if that doesn't work, short the module, and then determine what you're going to route it from there. So hopefully that's a good explainer. Again, this is just a system sensor WFD60N flow switch. And in the future, whenever you're writing stuff up for your inspections, just make sure you go through the test, the functional, mechanical, electrical, and that way you'll be able to properly write up your deficiencies.